It feels like it was very cultish. This is something that our old Sunday school teacher used to make us say, to make us be afraid. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
So you must be careful and do everything they tell you, but do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they preach.
One of the people was mad, so they boarded the doors shut.
What kept you coming to church through all of that?
It was guilt. Like, I just didn't want people to look at me like the person that I knew I was. I had a lot of people fooled. They thought I was this great Christian person, and I was not at all. I just kept falling deeper and deeper and deeper into sin, because it's like, if I'm not going to heaven, why does it matter if I try now?
Hey godly girls
and guys,
this podcast is for God, from us, and to you.
You're listening to XOXO Godly Girls. We're just two best friends who like to talk and love Jesus.
Tune in every Friday for new episodes wherever you stream podcasts.
We're excited to grow with you in this faith journey.
Are you ready?
Hi everybody, welcome back to the podcast. My name's Abby.
My name is Tori.
And you're listening to XOXO Godly Girls. Today we have a very special guest, special to both of us, but a little more special to Tori, so I'll let her introduce
More special to me.
her today. I mean, I would say she's more special to me, but she did kind of birth you. So.
She did birth me, so spoiler alert, it's my mom. And I have mentioned her in every single episode, but I've never said her name just because I just haven't, because she's just mom. She's Miriam. She's my mama. And I've learned so much from her, and she raised me. So this is the woman herself. Today, you're
Tracy Stowe.
it. Tracy Stowe. What did you just do?
I said I'm it.
I said,
Ma'am. My name is Ma'am.
not Miriam.
You're red. Stop.
Breathe.
She's going to explode.
If anyone's ever wondered why I get red every week and where that comes from,
Exhibit
Exhibit A.
You're not even hiding. You're just
You're
a red.
Like, all of you is just
a tomato.
ketchup.
Okay. To start us off, I have a little question for you. Okay. If you could sit with your younger self during a hard season, what would you tell her about her faith? I got real serious real quick, so you can think about that for a second.
Laughed. Yeah. Okay, repeat the question.
Yeah. If you could sit with your younger self during a hard season, what would you tell her about faith?
Well, you don't always see, like, this is what I'm always saying to, like, the girls, like, you don't always see the bigger picture, even though God does. And, like, I want to know right now what's going to happen. But we don't ever know, so it's just having patience, which, Papa always said, don't pray for patience, because then you might end up with something that you have to have patience for. But I would just say, I don't know.
Well, that's good. To be patient. That is funny. Papa said one time he prayed for patience because he was like, Lord, I just need to have more patience. And then it was like one thing after the other. His patience was being tested, and he's like, I'm never praying for patience.
So I don't think I ever have since I heard that. So I wouldn't pray for patience, but no, it is just seeing, and it's still like that even now, because, like, I should have everything figured out, like what I want to do with my life, but I don't still.
I think that's the hardest part in my life right now, is having patience, so that's good advice for anyone ever.
Yeah.
All right. Did you have something to go into, or are you just going into?
Yeah,
Okay.
So today I want to talk a little bit about your testimony, just what got you to this point, and the importance of, like, how you raised up me and sis and where that all rooted from. So to start us off, just give us, like, a brief, how did you come to know Jesus? Like, what did your childhood look like?
My childhood, I was in church all the time since I was little bitty. You probably haven't even heard most of this. But I was in church since I was born, basically. And then, like, Papa, he was kind of in and out of church until I was about 14. And then he ended up, rededicating his life. And that's when he really got super involved in church. But I don't know how far you want me to go into that. You said brief. Mm-hmm. Okay. So anyway, I was basically just in church my whole life. And I knew that I wanted you guys to be raised in church. And Nanny Norma, of course, she was just a role model for our whole entire family.
So when I tell people my testimony, I say very similarly, like, grew up in the church, grandpa was a preacher, uncle was a preacher, and then my family was in a gospel singing group.
Oh, that was me.
Yeah, that was you. So you grew up so much in the church that you joined a gospel group with some of our family, with Graham and Aunt Misty, and went to a bunch of different churches. This was like my core memories. Like, this is my childhood. But in that season of your life, you go as much into this or little into this as you want, but talking about growing up in the church, you also experienced a lot of church hurt. So that's made me wonder, like, what made you stay so persistent in faith and raise me and Kate in the church when it was hard for you to go yourself?
It's actually amazing that I did stay in church, seriously, because it wasn't just like one church hurt. The church that I grew up in, let's see, I went there from, the time I was 13, actually. 13 until 23. So that's quite a long time. Like, looking back, just conversations I've had with you, it feels like it was very cultish. Because, it's hard to talk about because it still affects me. But, I wasn't going to get emotional. But, okay, so clearly, I've been divorced. I'm not with your dad. Did you know that?
What? That's crazy.
Josh isn't your dad? No!
But, of course, I don't know how much Tori's told you of this, but, like, in the church I grew up in, if you've been divorced, you're going to hell. Like, no matter what, you're going to hell. If you've been divorced and you're remarried, well, of course you're still going to hell because you've been divorced. And so I felt that way for,
like a couple years ago.
Till like 2 years ago.
We were talking and you were still just like, I just don't think I'm going to heaven. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of undoing some of the damage of what was poured into you from such a young age. And that's the thing, like, you were told that growing up. So then whenever that happened to you, how did that affect your faith? Because you, like, believed that growing up, but now you were in it.
No, I did. Well, because then I thought, I'm divorced. I'm already going to hell. So what's it matter now? I mean, and that really was my mindset. So, I just kept falling deeper and deeper and deeper into sin because it's like, if I'm not going to heaven, why does it matter if I try now? And it was literally until about 2 years ago because, and still it's sometimes in the back of my mind because it's just like, ugh. I mean, I'll just hear that, just like, you've been divorced and you're remarried, you're going to hell. But I know that's not true now. Yeah. But that was hard to shake.
The religious trauma that you had with the people, Jesus experienced that himself. Back then they were called Pharisees, and today they're called Christians, which is really, really sad because we call ourselves Christians, and I don't want to be associated with. The sad part about your story is that's not just your story. Like, there's other people who went to those churches that you did, and there's people who went to hundreds of thousands of other churches where they've experienced similar things or even worse things. Like, church hurt is so real, and it's the people that are supposed to be representing God and his love that are often the most judgmental. And it's always been like that. Like, the very people who were supposed to be, pointing to the Savior and to the Messiah were the ones who crucified him. Like, the Pharisees were the only people back in the Old Testament who had access to the scrolls, and it was their responsibility to read it to the people and to interpret it and to tell them and to teach them. But instead, they misinterpreted it, and then they got Jesus crucified up on the cross. So, yeah.
I think mine was very minimal. Like, we went to a church growing up until I think I started coming here in, like, middle school or high school. But growing up, we went to this church, and then there was a big church split, and then now I see these people in public, and it's like, man, I grew up with you. Like, we are the church, and now I can't even look at you in the eyes because we don't go to the same building every Sunday. And that is kind of hard. It kind of just disputes your view on Christianity because, you're supposed to love these people and be in unison with them anywhere you go, but you're not. And that's why I love our church, because you see one person out and it's like, oh my gosh, hi, like, I see you at church, I love you, like, even though you don't even know their first name, like, you've seen their face, and it's like, wow, that's what church is supposed to be. That's how we're supposed to be. So
That's good. I love how you said that, like, we're supposed to be the church,
Yeah.
but then the building split, and now you can't even look at each other.
Well, and it is hard because, like, some of the meanest people that I know claim to be
she was
Christians.
looking at me when she said
Some of the meanest people I know. But no, they do. They claim to be Christians. And it's just like, well, why would anybody want to be a Christian? Like, if this is what's also funny, like, some people will try to get people into church, but then they're like, I see how you are outside of church. You're mean, you're rude. And so why would people want to be a part of that?
Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
Speaking on Pharisees, I had in Matthew 23 a little bit about how we view the Pharisees, aka Christians, now. So we can fill in the word Christian.
Christians are the
As
modern day
the
Pharisee, and it will
Pharisee.
probably apply. Yeah.
It says, Then Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples, the teachers of the law, which back then the Pharisees were like the highest of the podium because they were the ones that interpreted the word of God, and so like they were the ones who knew the word and could tell other people about it. So anyways, the teachers of the law and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. So you must be careful and do everything they tell you, but do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they preach. They tie up heavy, cumbersome loads and put them on other people's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move them. And so in today's world, the teachers of the law, the Christians, sit in the church. So you must be careful to do everything they tell you, but do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they preach. It's hard when you hear that.
It does, and it's sad. And obviously, not all Christians are.
No.
Yeah.
It sounds like we're dogging Christians.
Yeah, we are Christians, by the way.
We are Christians, but it is hard, like, whenever you look around and you're seeing the people that do go to the church, the building on Sundays, and you see them as the judgmental people. Why would you want to be a part of their faith if they're not being a representation of what you would want to be? And so, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Like at our church, we try to make sure that we show the love of Jesus to everybody. And it's just like, okay, yeah, we know that they're probably going out and getting drunk on the weekend. But if we see them on a Sunday morning, we're not just going to, look at them and be talking about them. And that's not how it was. Because it's just like, well, and you had to be in church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, another thing. Because if not, the whole church talks bad about you. If you're not there every single service, the whole church talks bad about you. So then, of course, it's another thing. It's like, I can't do anything right. And like I said, I started going there when I was about 13. So then around the time I was about 17, then it was kind of like the divorce thing. It's just like, I can't do anything right. So I'm going to be very honest. You already know this, but I became very promiscuous. And it was bad. And it was just the same thought of, I can't do anything right, so I'm just going to keep sinning because no matter what I do, I'm going to hell. and that was it. It's like, okay, you get drunk, you're going to hell. You do this, you're going to hell. You lie, you're going to hell. But you can gossip about people, that's fine. You know what I mean? But it's just like, you can talk bad about all the other people who are sinning, but that's okay, which it's not. But, and of course that damages your self-esteem. And so then I would just literally date anybody who would look at me.
Don't look at her.
Sorry,
Yes, we're dating.
That also kind of sounded conceited because, like, anybody who'd look at me would want to date me. That's what it sounded like.
I mean, they would.
But no, I mean, it didn't matter. Sadly, it didn't matter who it was because it was just like, okay, somebody's paying attention to me because my self-esteem was just shot.
They're not judging you for the things that you've been doing.
Yeah. So then it's like, okay, well, I can be with this person and do whatever I want, and it's fine because they're not going to judge me. They don't care. Of course, that never worked out so well. And that's why I'm so, and you know that, but that's why I'm so proud of you because I didn't care if they were, I didn't care if they were Christian. I didn't even care if they went to church because I just didn't care. It was a person. They were there. They were talking to me. They were nice. So I didn't care. So that's why I am so proud of you because, you know, you have morals. I gave them all to you. You're welcome. You took them all from me. Like, literally. It's like.
That's a true thing, though, is that, like, you pour out to your children what you don't want them to see, like, in you.
Yeah.
So, definitely could have
That's true.
been why she's so stern and not dating
It
anything.
is. Anything. But it is, and I've told you that. Like, I hate that you had to go through the things that you did. I hate that, but I also know you would do it again if it meant that I would be the way that I turned out, which is sad because it's like, at what cost? Like, that doesn't seem fair to me. I wish that wouldn't have been your story, but I grew up and watched you date people and watched them break your heart and then watched them break mine and Kate's heart. And I was just like, it's like I've experienced so much heartbreak at a young age. I fell into a similar pattern kind of young, but it was just with one guy where it was like he was showing me attention. This was nice, and I didn't really care how he treated me, and he wasn't even all bad. So it's like it could have been so much worse than it was. But once I got out of that, I was like, I'm not going to repeat these patterns. Like, I've seen how this goes, and I've seen that once you attract one person, you tend to attract the same kinds of people and keep getting hurt. And then I, like, tried to really quick after and was like, nope, this isn't for me. I'm not going to repeat this because because I've seen it, and I hate that I had to watch you be hurt, but it made me cautious. Yeah. Talking about all of this probably sounds like I don't tell people your story because that's your story to be told. But when I talk about my story, I say a lot about how, like, it was a super, super Christian family. And so people who are listening are probably confused by that. Like, you were in a gospel singing group, and then there was this stuff going on. And that, for me, also was a distorted, not of that, but, like, same with some of the people who I watched who were on platforms, and it wasn't their sin. It was everybody else's sin that they judged. Like you said, it was the words, it was the gossip. And it made Christianity kind of unappealing to me at a young age because I have always been super observant and like at how people would treat you or at like just the things that they would say. And I wondered, like, what kept you coming to church through all of that?
Honestly, guilt. Because I felt like if I didn't, I would be disowned. Really. I mean, that was a lot of it. Well, and that church ended up having a huge split. Like, where people at the front of the church were yelling at people at the back of the church. Oh, it was bad.
This divided half of our family for years until my grandpa died. No joke.
And then there was another church that my dad had pastored. It was over by where Nanny Norma used to live. And they had just voted him back in. And then that night, my dad and my uncle were going over there to get ready to set up or, I don't know, unlock it or something. Well, they had voted my dad back in, but one of the people was mad, so they boarded the doors shut. They put boards on them and nailed the doors shut. So we got actually boarded out of that church. And I remember I was just like, I was so mad because I was like, why do I even go to church anymore? Why do any of us even go? Because it either gets split or we get kicked out. And so that was hard. But still, I mean, a lot of it, and that is honest, because it was guilt. Like, I just didn't want people to look at me like the person that I knew I was, because I did have a lot of people fooled, unfortunately, but yeah, I did. I had a lot of people fooled. They thought I was this great Christian person, and I was not at all. I wasn't living it.
What would you say was the turning point? Like, where did that...
So, like, guilt kept you coming to church, but what drove you to Jesus? Because it's so hard to understand his love when church people have only shown you hate for so long. So, yeah, what was the pivotal moment?
Actually, it was when I started coming here. Of course, Papa, he is the one, him and you and Sis and Josh, honestly, the only people, Nanny Norma, of course.
She keeps adding to the list.
They're the only people that I could say actually loved me unconditionally, like no conditions. I mean, Papa, we would get mad at each other and stuff, but I could and did mess up so many times, and like big things, like did horrible things. And he would come over and he would tell me he loved me. And he would tell me, of course, at the time it would make me mad because he's just like, you shouldn't be doing this. And I remember one time he specifically said, sis, you need to pick up your cross and carry it. And I knew he was right, and that made me so mad. But then he hugged me and told me he loved me. But so him and Nanny were a lot of the reason, but you and Sissy were the biggest reasons that I thought, well, maybe, I knew it worked for Nanny Norma, so I was like, maybe there is something else to it. But actually coming to this church is what changed everything, because I wasn't being judged. I even told Luke and Roger things that a lot of people, well, most people don't know, like Tori and Caitlin and Josh. They're the only people that know some things. And I had told Luke and Roger. And, of course, I was boohoo bawling, and I was just like, I already had it in my mind, I'm not coming back. And they were like, okay, so if anybody says anything, we're going to have your back, because that's not you now. And that meant more to me than anything.
I think the significance of that, because I remember when this conversation was, you were being asked to be a small group leader. And I know that our girls are listening to this, and you just didn't feel worthy because there was a season of your life where you were very seen in the Christian eye, like literally in a traveling gospel singing group, and weren't living like it. And so now you weren't ashamed then, like you were just living life, but then your shame caught up with you. And then the weight of your sins you actually started to feel for the first time. Yeah. And so you didn't want to be disingenuous because you knew your past. But that's the thing, that wasn't who you are. Like, it's not who you are, it's your past. But you were like so burdened by your past, and you were like, I don't want to be that person again who has all of these mistakes and all of this shame and call myself a leader. I'm like, but you are a leader. Like, that's not who you are anymore. That's who you were. But that was hard. And
it was, and it still kind of is, because, well, and if you remember, that whole thing started because it was like, but there are a few people that go to this church that did know how I was back then. And I was just like, even though that's been 15 years ago, some people, and I know I'm not naive, but I know some people still look at me like I'm that person, because it is hard. And that's one thing I would tell my younger self, and to our girls, is, you may think that the things you do right now don't affect you, but they do, because the things I was doing even when I was 30, 31, the time period that I'm talking about, yeah, it still affects me, because I'll see these people who may not think of me that way still, but when I see them, I'm just like I don't even want to look at them, because I'm just like, they knew who I was back then. And I was saying that I was the person that I am now, so now they're probably just like, yeah, she's just a phony because she said that 15 years ago.
Yeah. That's the hardest
It's hard. It is so hard.
I think, and me and Abby have talked about this too, and the difference between having like a complete redeeming testimony, like some of the people who have a past and then come to know Jesus versus someone who knows Jesus and is actively sinning in that because you grew up with him. Like, you've had him your whole church life. So it's so hard to, once you've actually experienced the change later on, to be like, no, I actually believe this, and like, I'm so all in now. And I know I said I was then, but like, now it's genuine. And here's the thing, nobody has to believe it. It's for you to believe and for God to see, but that doesn't mean it's not hard. Like, I wish we just didn't care what other people thought about us. I wish, because it really doesn't matter, but it's hard.
It is. And I still think that's kind of what's hard for me is because, you know, talking about our girls and stuff, it's always, not always, but every now and then I just think, I wonder who their parents are. No, I do, because it's just like, I wonder who their parents are, because if I knew them back then and they know that I'm their small group, one of their small group leaders, they're not going to let them come here, and I don't blame them. I mean, because of, if they think that I'm still that person, that's hard. And that's why I'm always like, yeah. So, I mean, it does, even if you're 30 or 40 or however old I am, I can't remember. Whatever you do today is still going to affect you 10 years down the road. And not just you. Like, you know, things I did 10 years ago could have affected you, could affect you still. And so it's not just about us either. So
That's true.
because in the moment we're just selfish and we're like, it's not going to hurt anybody. Or it's just going to hurt myself, but that's not true. Hear that, girls? That was for you and you and you. Okay.
That was good,
Yeah.
Mama.
That was good.
That was really good. Oh, sorry.
I think it's easy for us to see, like, a lot of our own sins, but even you saying, like, I'm scared that my girls' moms are gonna see, or, like, their parents or whatnot, but it's funny because the girls that, we know what they're going through right now, but the moment that they walk through that door, it's not, oh, shame on you for what you've done. It's, oh my gosh, I love that you're here. I love to see you. And I wish that everybody thought that way, but I think that's a true testament to how you've changed, because you're not seeing them for what they've done or what they're doing. You're seeing them for who they are, and you know that their actions don't define them if they don't let it. So.
Well, and that's what I wish I would have had growing up, too. Like I said, I had it from my dad, I mean, and from Nanny Norma. But, like, in the church, I wish I would have had that instead of, do you know what she did? You know? It's like, okay, well, now everybody does. But I do. I wish I would have had a safe place like I hope the girls, you know, I think they feel safe in our small group room, but I wish I would have had something like that, because I think it would have been a whole different outcome on a lot of things. Just like, okay, well, they're going to love me. They're going to let me know it's wrong, because we're not going to condone. Yeah. Keep giving him the mom look. We're not going to condone what you do if it's bad. But no, I mean, we're not. We're not going to condone it, but we're also going to let them know they will mess up. Yeah. They will. It's part of life, and just learn from it. It took me lots and lots of years to learn, but I finally did.
But I feel like your past gives you such a heart of compassion, though, because you grew up seeing so much judgment. And I remember you telling me, like, you used to, because you heard if you're divorced, you go to hell, you were so judgmental towards it until it was you. Yeah. And so you had to, but, like, you had to go through, I think, not saying God was, like, condoning divorce. You know, it says that.
Yeah, he doesn't like
it. He's against it. Mm-hmm. But like, he was guiding you along this path because he was caring more even about your heart than your sin, and you have this heart of compassion and understanding that you didn't have before because of the way you've been treated, but also because you're like, man, I know I'm not worthy, so, like, Jesus gets all the glory for everything.
But even, like, cussing, it's not a good thing to do. Like, but if it's, like, a new Christian or whatever, I would even think, well, they got saved. Why are they cussing? It's like 5 minutes later, and it's just like, yeah, they didn't really get saved. They're cussing. And it's just like...
Like, sanctification is a process.
Yes.
That's the thing. We talked this episode, I don't know. No, it hasn't come out in this. Anyways, that's not important. But we talked about, like, the attributes of a godly girl in last week's episode, and one of the things that I struggled with for a while was modesty. And it's like I had Jesus with me and in me. I might not have been representing that the best, but he had to do the work in me and reveal that to me. And, like, there were some conversations that I had along the way, but it was not just an immediate thing. And I think the first thing he wants is your heart. We talk about this so much, I feel like, but the posture of the heart is so important. But, like, having your heart, and then he does all the healing and the taking care of you, and the judgment of the church did not change your heart. Jesus did. And I feel like in this past year,
Changed it, but not for the good.
it did change your heart. Yeah,
Yeah.
it made you a bitter person. It did. Like, I can't. The version of you that I grew up with, you were always a great mom, so don't start knocking on yourself. You've always been a good mama. But yes, you have. You have. Look at how me and Kate both turned out. That doesn't happen with bad momming.
With bad mom.
It doesn't happen. It just doesn't. Like, you brought us up in the church, in a good church. We didn't experience the kind of church hurt that you're talking about because you were more guarded with us. You loved us. You told us when things were wrong, but then you still showed us God's love.
Yeah.
So even when you weren't living right, you were still loving us, and you always put us first. Like, even when you weren't in the right place with God, you were in right with me and Kate. Like, you always put us first. And so you've always been honest with us and vulnerable with us. You never seemed that you were perfect. You were upfront with the things that you did. You've always
Very upfront.
but because of that, like, it showed me the importance of vulnerability and being authentic, because that's, like, my superpower. I feel like in ministry is I'm an open book. I'm maybe a little too open sometimes, because I just know for the sake of the one person that it might help through my story and through my vulnerability. But that's because you've always been real with me. And you could have got up on that stage in the way you deceived everybody else, and you could have came home and made me and Kate think that you were this holy, perfect person, but you were honest with us of, like, guys, I'm not living the best, and, like, I don't know. So you've got to not be so hard on yourself. You've always been a good mom. But that being said, in the past year...
XOXO.
Yeah. But even with you always being a good mom, I'm not done bragging on you yet. This past year, I'm not even kidding, year. Honestly, okay, since the wreck, there's been a shift in you. Like, that just uprooted our whole lives. The car wreck and then losing Papa changed everything about our lives forever. But in the past 2 years, I've seen such a change in you to where you're not just coming to come to church and, like, showing up to serve. It's not like you're checking off list. You are changing in your heart and in the way that you talk, and, like, you don't talk judgy about people anymore. You don't. Like,
Just Abby.
only Abby.
No, but seriously, because
Yeah.
me and Tori have been best friends forever now, and before the accident we never had serious conversations, but then after the accident you literally sat me down and was like, this is what's going on, I see this in you, and this needs to change, but I still love you. But, like, seriously, your heart for people and others and showing everybody compassion I've seen it too. I didn't notice it until you just said that, but definitely, yeah.
You've just been changing so much. Like, God has done such a crazy work in your life. And so, like, yeah, you might have grown up with him forever, but now you show everybody his love. Like, everybody that you come in contact with. And there's so many things people don't even know. Like, when there's a homeless person and you buy them extra clothes. Or it's things like that I get to see you do. And so I might have not been, like, seeing that whenever I was a little girl. And so this is encouragement, because I know it's not just students that listen. Like, there are parents that listen to this. And if you feel like, oh, man, I didn't do this as a parent, or I should have done better. Like, if you are still a parent. Me and Caitlin are grown up. We don't even live with you anymore, but you still parent us, because we see Jesus working in your life, and it's inspiring. And we told you this not long ago, like, we lost our Nana this year, and she was the spiritual leader in your life like Papa was in mine. And I was like, I'm sorry, me and Kate aren't providing grandchildren, because you would be that grandparent. Like, you would be like Nanny Norma.
Abby.
Abby's gonna have the...
You've got the dogs for now, but in a little while you'll have Linda Stewart.
You'll have Abby's child to be a grandparent to anything. She's not married yet. Just a couple more weeks, though.
That's true.
A couple more weeks. But, yeah, so all of that being said, I know that was a lot. I don't even know how you're going to respond to any of that, because there was no question. That was just it was just a full-on statement. But I guess the question, if I had one off of that, would be, like, which we've kind of asked, but what changed in the past couple years? Because I know the car accident and like Papa shifted probably your outlook on life, and like losing Laura, you lost your best friend the year before that, so you realized that life was. Why do I keep holding this pin on my finger?
That's kind of cool.
But you realized that life was super short, so you started looking at it differently. But what has changed in your heart these past couple years?
Oh yeah, the big thing. I started reading my Bible. Yeah, because I would read my Bible a verse every year, maybe.
Verse of the year.
Verse of the year instead of verse of the day. Verse of the
Year
decade.
keeps God away.
Pretty much. It was.
A verse every day keeps God close.
He's got to stay.
Yeah.
I like it. We need a shirt that says that.
She's gonna make us.
She's going to.
So, yeah, I started reading my Bible. It's amazing what that'll do. Because, yeah, I hate reading. I've read 2 books in my life, and one of them was Tori's.
Same. I think I've read one.
Just Tori's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've read a
That was
couple
a
now.
plug.
I've read a couple. But
Accidental purpose. But anyway. But no, just reading my Bible because, everybody says that there's power in the Word, and there actually is.
Isn't that crazy when
I
you
feel
see
like-
it for yourself?
yeah, I feel like there's a fact
is.
out there that's like, if you read so much every day, then you'll start to
Yeah,
see
I've
these
heard
changes in your
that.
life. I can't remember what they are, but
I
it's
know. There were
like
stats.
you have a more positive outlook on life. You have
It was like mental health. It
Yeah.
was in your relationships. It
Yeah.
was all of these different things, and how reading your Bible
and
impacts
you're
you like
living
that.
proof of it.
Yeah.
Really. You're just a statistic now.
You're just a
Statistic. So turn to Proverbs 9, verse 10.
Wow, I love that you just know where that is and what this
She's been
is.
reading her Bible.
Good. Yeah, evidence right there.
Watch it be the wrong one.
I hope it is. I hope it's just like so unrelative to what we're talking about.
So the first part of it, this is something that our old Sunday school teacher used to make us say, to make us be afraid, that to be afraid of God. Like,
Makes sense.
That's why you remember this.
yes, kind of like where it was just like, okay, well, if you sin, God's just gonna smack you upside the head with something heavy. I don't know, but I mean that's what it felt like. But so it's the beginning of wisdom is. Oh, that's not right.
You're right.
Okay,
It says
the beginning.
fear of the Lord.
The
is
fear of the
beginning.
Lord is the beginning of wisdom. But that was cut off. But there's more to it.
And the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding.
Ooh.
Yeah. And didn't really hear that last part.
They only made you say the
But
beginning
it
part?
was, yeah. You just had the feeling of you need to be fearful of God. And that's not what that verse means at all. It doesn't mean to be, scared that anything you do is just going to send you straight to hell. And yeah, I don't know.
That
It's
probably
just,
caused a deep root into, well, now I don't fear him anymore.
that was
it's
so
like,
much of my life. I know it sounds like an excuse, but it
No.
it just was.
That's
It
what
was
you're
just
being
like,
taught. That's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
because it's just like, well, what now? Just keep sinning.
That's all I'm going to post.
What now? Just keep sinning.
And just keep sinning.
No. That's good.
Oh, yeah.
If you have faith, your faith is good with works. Like your works are evidence of your faith. And so, in 19 it says, you believe that there is one God. Good. Even the demons believe that and shudder. And so, and then we jump down to 26. As the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead. And so, I think that would have been a very, who knows what your life would have turned out to be if the people that were in the church were showing you the love of Jesus, not just speaking, oh, Jesus loves you, but I'm not going to act like he loves you,
Right. Jesus loves you if you don't sin.
so then he loves none of us.
Right.
You know?
Or if you, Jesus loves you if,
You're perfect.
yeah.
That's good. He loves me. Just kidding.
Oh man, I think my favorite thing about going back just a little bit, what you just read, it made me think of what Mom had said. What they tried to like program into her mind was that it's all about the fear of the Lord. And then that beginning of that verse said, "You say you believe in God? Good. Even the demons do, and they shudder." The demons are afraid of God because they know his power and they know his authority, but they don't experience the love of him. And Jesus loves us more than the demons. Like, he cares about us. So, like, yes, in fear and, like, out of respect, in the same way, like, I would fear you if I would do something wrong because I'm like, I'm going to get grounded, I'm going to get my butt whooped. So, like, I had a respect for you. There's that kind of fear in the Lord, which is what it's referring to in the Bible when it says to fear the Lord. But the demons were afraid of the Lord, but they didn't have the love from him that we have. And I think that that's so crucial in church, and it's hard to find that balance where some churches go so heavy, fear, and fire and brimstone, do this or you're going to go to hell. And then there's other churches that are just like, love, 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 and then they don't
Nobody goes to hell.
Yeah, nobody goes to hell. But hell and heaven are both real places, and there's a destination where we're going to end up. And so it's important for us as Christians to find the balance between the fear and respect of God. Like,
That's what I was going to
him,
say. Yeah.
but his love.
Because I think that that's what that means, is when it talks about the fear of the Lord. Like you said, you know, you feared me, like you were afraid to do anything wrong, but it was a respect thing too, because I know, like, you didn't want to disappoint me either.
Yeah.
And so, you know, so I think that's a lot of it too. But yeah, it can be taken so out of context. Like, you don't want, God doesn't want you to just be scared of him.
I want to share something that is like this is the most impactful thing that I think you've ever said to me, and I don't think I've told you this, because why would I tell you this? Because I was in trouble. And when you're in trouble, you don't want, like, them to know that what they said was so profound. So I was in big trouble. Like, this was the worst thing that I had ever done. Yes. You know what I'm talking about.
You're getting spanked.
It still wasn't that.
I didn't get spanked. It was the words that she said that gutted me. I said, like, I'm so sorry. And you were like, are you sorry for what you did, or you're just sorry that you got caught? And that's how I think of our fear and our respect for the Lord. Like, we come to him and we're like, I'm so sorry. And he's like, you're sorry because you know I'm always watching? You're sorry because someone else caught you in the act? Like, are you actually sorry
because
for your
you're living
actions?
in the consequences?
Yeah, you're sorry because you're having to deal with the consequences of the decisions that you made? Or you're sorry because you know what you did hurt me because I love you and I saw you hurting yourself. Like, that's why it hurt you, because you're like, you know that I was better than that. So you were hurt because you're like, come on, Tor, like, you're better than this. And you had even said something about this situation where you were like, this is the second most profound thing you've ever said to me. It was over a boy, of course. But Mom was like, it just breaks my heart that, like, your self-esteem is that low that you don't think you can do better. And I was like, I do not have low self-esteem. Like, I was so offended. No, really, I was so offended when you said that. I'm like, how dare she? Like, those are such hurtful words to say that, like, tell someone that they have low self-esteem, but you were calling out something in me. I didn't even see it. I didn't even think about self-esteem, but... Like,
till that day.
Till that day. But then I think about, in the same sense, though, like, God looking at you. So in that season of your life where you were like, everybody talked bad about me and I thought I was going to hell, so it was like, might as well just live this way, might as well just do this, might as well talk to every guy that breathes. And God is like, you are worth so much more than that. Like, why is your self-esteem so low that you can't see yourself the way that I created you and think you deserve more? So every time where we think he's putting parameters and he's being so strict and, like, the fear that we have to have, it's just because he loves us, and he, like, it hurts him to see us continuously abuse ourselves. Like, it's hurting ourselves, and like you said, it also hurts the people around us. So yeah, he's looking at us. Like, that's why it's so profound, because everything that you said, I'm like, God is looking at me and he's saying the exact same thing I am right now. Like, why are you viewing yourself so low, and are you actually sorry for what you did, or just that you got caught? And I wasn't sorry for what I did. I was just sorry that I got caught. That's why I was so mad.
Same. I wasn't sorry for a long time that, you know, I would, and except not with a parent, but like with you, it was Well, you would never say you were sorry if you weren't.
I wouldn't.
I would be like, say you're sorry, and she'd be like,
This is one thing about me. I wouldn't. Like, I was like
she didn't want to lie.
2 years old till I was like 9 years. Now I say.
Until you were 23.
Now I apologize for everything. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry that you just ran into me. Like,
why do we do that?
I don't know. But
Do you ever
yeah,
do that?
when I was little, we would get in huge arguments just about me not saying sorry. Like, I hurt my sister's feelings, and they would say, now say sorry. And I'm like, I'm not going to lie. Like, why would I? You know how much I hate being. You know how much I hate being fake. So I was like, I'm not saying sorry, and I would just like stay in my room. She'd like stay there till you say sorry. I'm like,
Fine,
I'll starve.
So I'd finally let her out after hours. She was so stubborn, she would not apologize. But now I'm like, that is kind of mean. Like, why would you make your kid apologize? Sorry.
Well, you're trying
Sorry,
to
parents,
build. You're trying to build that like.
You are.
You're trying to build empathy and forgiveness. Like you're trying. That was something I didn't have at all. Kids aren't sorry. They're not. They're not sorry. Like, you don't realize that your actions hurt other people. And if you hadn't done that when I was younger and instilled that in me, I could have grown up and been super judgy like the Christians that you knew and, like, never apologized for things. True. So, like, you have to instill that in kids, and they're going to be stubborn sometimes. And I was stubborn. Like,
that's good. Is there main takeaways or any other questions that you had?
Just to close us out, like, I just want Mom to give advice to someone who's struggling with religious trauma. So it can be, like, there's probably someone watching this and it's like, man, I've experienced church hurt. Or how Abby had kind of said in the beginning, to your past self. So, like, if you could go back and tell yourself something about who Jesus really is versus what the church showed you, what would it be?
Well, read the Bible. I mean, start there, because that'll reveal so much to you. Instead, you'll be able to see Jesus's love instead of what people are telling you that it is. Because I mean, it still even took me reading my Bible, even though the people here helped tremendously, but it still took me reading the Bible to figure it out for myself. And so that's advice I would give. And if you're struggling, like we've said, it's so hard with, like, people. People are hard. Like, people who say they're Christians and are just bullies, kind of. But that's hard. That's really hard. How would I answer that? Tori, answer that for me.
I think the Bible one's important because you also got to read verses for the first time, not the way you'd always heard them. Like, you got to see the context and the story behind them, because there's a lot of churches that pick and pull and twist, and so bop it. Pick, pull, anyways. But there's a lot of churches who do that, and so if you don't pick it up for yourself and then see what the Lord actually is trying to reveal in that passage, you might miss it, or you might go your whole life believing something out of context. So I think that's important. But
yeah, I believed it forever.
Yeah. Okay, here's how I would answer that. If I could go back in time and I could, like, see you and knew that, like, you were going through all of these things with the church, the most important thing I would say is that the church is such a broken representation of the love of Jesus. Like, even the best of us aren't going to get it right. So, not just through the Bible, but through prayer and just knowing Him. Like, we always say Christianity is not a religion, it's a relationship. But then we treat it like it's a religion, and we have our rituals, much like the Pharisees, and we have our standards, and we make our lists, and we say things have to be this way, this has to be this way, and we try to categorize everything. But that's not what Christianity is supposed to be. Christianity, the religion maybe, like, that people have in their minds and what they try to follow, but Jesus isn't that. Like, I would say, get to know Jesus, aside from the faith of your family. Even as much as you love Papa and you love Nanny Norma, like, you get to know Jesus and let Him reveal Himself to you so that you don't get confused with the misrepresentation in His people. Yeah. That's what I would say. Yeah.
I think this was the perfect, like, close to the series, because we've hit on gossip. I can't remember the other two. Greed and...
Gossip, greed, and pride. And then even in being a godly girl, we hit on some hard topics like modesty and... Why is it so hard to remember everything?
I don't know. But it was, like, the point is, like, this was all-encompassing, too. Like, this is what led you to a lot of hurt in your life and not a representation of what Jesus is and should be in your life. And so I love that we got to close this
Me too.
Series with you showing like how these things that we talked about can affect other people in their relationship with Christ.
How the sin can affect you, but also how, like, we've talked about the importance of, like, not doing those things, but also the biggest importance of being loved. Because if we were to just say, like, you shouldn't gossip, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't drink, you shouldn't have sex, you shouldn't do all of these different things, and then we left it at that and we said nothing with the love of Jesus, then we're leaving people exactly how Mom felt, like, I'm not good enough, might as well just continue in my sin. Christians are judgy, they're hypocrites, like all of that. And so hopefully today, if you're listening, you've heard it in a new way where it's like, yes, everything that we said prior to this is true, and there's reasons that we should stay away from those sins, like we said, because our Father loves us so much, and He's looking down at us and doesn't want to see us continue to cause that kind of hurt and pain on ourselves. But more than anything, love. Love above all else. Love more than judge, because that's what leads people to Him. It's not the fear of God might lead you to Him initially, but that won't sustain a relationship. Like, you don't get in a relationship with someone because you're scared of them. They might threaten you too, and then you're like, okay, whatever, now I'm in this relationship and it's weird. But love is powerful. No, but think about, like, in a relationship, fear might keep you in a bad relationship, but love is, like, what makes you want to stay in a relationship. And so, what is the motive of your faith? Do you believe in God just because you're afraid of going to hell? Or do you believe in Him because you love Him so much and you know that He loves you and died for all of the sins that you've committed, and even the ones you don't want to admit that you've committed? Like, He knows them. Yeah.
It's good.
That's good.
With that being said,
XOXO,
Godly girls.